Taoiseach, this Friday at 1 o'clock, the Save Our Forests, Save Our Lands Alliance will hold a protest outside the headquarters of Coileach in Newtown, Mount Kennedy, precisely to address what now more than 30 different environmental and rural organisations who have joined the Alliance believe is the risk that is posed to biodiversity, to farmers, to local communities, to water quality, to sustainable forestry, to addressing our climate objectives by the policies of Coileach, who have most recently attempted to pursue a forestry model which is about involving vulture funds who are purely interested in making profit from forestry and continuing the failed, bankrupt model of monoculture Sitka spruce, which are damaging for the environment, damaging for local communities, useless for worse than useless for biodiversity, water quality, soil quality, you name it, right? There needs to be a fundamental reform of Coileach and what it is doing, because at the moment it is pursuing a damaging forest model from every level, and the Gresham House deal should still even now be unravelled, but more importantly we need a fundamental reform of the mandate of Coileach. So it is not about competing with farmers, it's not about operating forests simply for profit, but is actually about being the guardian of the forest estate in the interests of the common good and in the interests of pursuing biodiversity and supporting farmers and local communities. I hope you might support that protest and its demands for a fundamental and urgent reform of the Coileach mandate.
Deputy Colin.
On forestry, we have about 11.5% forestry in Ireland now in terms of our land mass, going in the right direction, which is encouraging. Aim is to get to 18%, big ask, but something we want to do. We want that mainly to be done by farmers. Farmers own most of the land in Ireland. We want them to be the people who do most of the new forestry, and that's why we have the new forestry programme with attractive grants, incentives, single farm payments and tax concessions for farmers who plant some or all of their land, and we really want them to lead on this and to be the main group that deliver for us when it comes to forestry. We have forestry for lots of different reasons. Yes, for climate as a carbon sink. Yes, for biodiversity. Yes, for leisure and tourism, but also for timber. And timber is important. We have a housing crisis. Embedded carbon matters. We want more homes built with timber rather than with concrete, and that's where conifers do come in. So we do need to have them as part of our plantation mix. And I think that needs to be borne in mind as well. You can deal with the climate crisis and the housing crisis at the same time, but very hard to do if you don't use timber in your houses, and that means conifers. And the mandate for Coileach should be all of those things, to produce timber for housing and for building, for leisure, for tourism, for climate and biodiversity. It should be a multiple mandate and not a single mandate, and that is the mandate in my view. Just to say, I very much agree with what Deputy Gould had to say in terms of us not seeing a wage price spiral. That's not happening in Ireland. Inflation in Ireland is being caused for other reasons: monetary policy, QE, a prolonged period of low interest rates, pandemic which created a mismatch in supply and demand, and also, of course, the war in Ukraine. But just because we're not seeing a price wages spiral doesn't mean that we want to see one either.